Greetings, younglings. How do you make a Swiss roll? You push him down a mountain. An excellent joke. And now NOOCH will share with you how to mod your Geonosians. It's been requested by many folks. How do you mod your Geonosians? Coming up right now. Ooh, a little dark humor from Emperor Lord Palpatine there. Whew, going after the Swiss, you know, they're neutral. I'm not sure. All right, anyway. So this was requested a while ago, and NOOCH is getting around. So we're going to keep doing this. How to mod your... We did our first order. Now we're going to do your Geos. And it's always the question because when so many people farm Geos, especially early game, free-to-play players. You farm the Geos. They're a really good defensive team. In Grand Arena, they're a really good offensive team. They're a good early arena team in Squad Arena. They're just an all-around good team. You use them to get Padme. They're part of the gas. It's pretty. So they're just really good to have on your roster. They provide a fleet that you can use for early game, even mid game. It's just and even end game with the Malevolence. So the Geos all around from the beginning of the game to the end of the game are very useful. But the question is, how do you mod them best to perform as a team in, we think of Grand Arena, right? If it applies to Grand Arena, it'll apply to Squad Arena too. So how do we do that best? And the first thing I want to tell you is you're going to have multiple different kinds of mod sets. You know, usually the mod sets we think of in Galaxy of Heroes are speed sets, health and protection sets, speed sets for your support characters, sometimes your offense characters, health and protection for your tanks, and offense or crit damage for your attackers, and you get all that here. You just it crosses the breadth of everything. But the first thing we're going to talk about, we're gonna there's no way to get around talking about how this team works and what it does and what makes it go while you're talking about the mods. And we're going to start with Geobrood Alpha because he's the engine. This is the guy that gets everything going. When Geobrood Alpha was released, and NOOCH remembers Geos existing before him, and they were not a useful faction in the game, except for the fleets that they had. The bug fleets were a meta for a while. But once Geobrood Alpha came into the game, this became a viable faction across the board in almost all phases of the game. And if we look at what he does, you want to mod him as fast as possible. You can see that NOOCH has 144 extra speed on. That is a lot of extra speed. That's probably in the top 5 or 6 extra speeds that NOOCH has loaded up for his characters. And the thing is, you want him to be taking turns. You want him to be going over and over and over again. First, let's talk about his leader ability. He gives everybody 15,000 max health and protection, and 50% health steal, so they're constantly recovering health when they're below 100% health. They recover 3% protection, so they're constantly recovering protection and health, and they deal more damage for each buffed enemy. If we look at his abilities, you know, he's got the Queen's Will, which gives him tenacity. They all have the hive mind buff, so everybody assists every time every time any other Geo takes a turn, they all assist. They deal 50% less damage, equalize health and protection. But why do we want him going so much? Here's the Geo Brute. One reason you want him going a lot is just to make sure that if the Brute dies, he can reload the Brute, get the Brute back out there on the field. But that's kind of secondary. You know, this is the main Zeta to have on this team. But the biggest reason that you want him doing that is this ability right here, the glaive. The glaive sweep the glaive. Dispel all buffs on enemies. Dispel all buffs on all enemies. Deal physical damage to all enemies and expose them for 2 turns. Then remove 15% turn meter from debuffed enemies. I mean, this AoE attack affects the whole team. And then also this here, dispel all debuffs on Geo allies. Summon a Geo Brute. That's what we're talking about with summoning the Geo Brute. But that also dispels all the debuffs. And everybody gains 15% turn meter, and they all recover 35% health and protection. What does his basic do? Deal damage, dispel all buffs on a critical hit. That's fine. But the main thing is the buff dispels against the opponent team, and the debuff dispels on your team. You want him taking turns as much as possible, and every time he takes a turn, the rest of the turn, the team takes a turn with him, and his stats also impact the brute. So you just want him as fast as freaking possible because he's the engine on the team. Now, your secondary engine on the team, there is if this engine gives out or it's kind of you're on the basic ability, you've exhausted these two. There's a secondary engine on this team, and you want to get speed on him as well, and it's Poggle. You want as much speed on Poggle. NOOCH doesn't have a ton of speed. 112 is good speed, not like God speed. It's very good speed. You want as much speed on Poggle as possible. He deals physical damage. That's fine. Warlord's Resolve. Poggle dispels all debuffs on all allies and gains 4% turn meter for each debuff dispelled. So he's pretty much going to gain all of his turn meter back if they had any debuffs. He grants everyone off all separatist allies offense up for 3 turns and call another target ally to assist. Dispelling all those debuffs and gaining turn meter. So he dispels debuffs, he gains turn meter, then he takes a turn. And every time any of these guys takes a turn, we said, everybody's recovering health, everybody's recovering protection, everybody's assisting. You just want these guys taking turns so he can not only dispel all the debuffs on his team, but then take another turn, maybe immediately. For what is a 4% into 125? So if there are 25 debuffs on the team, that's a lot. That's going to be like 5. Well, it's going to be, no, there's 6 on the field. So that's going to be like 4 each. That's not that many. You may be able to get that every single time. So he's just the secondary engine to get everything going. You don't care about his leader ability. He has 5% evasion for each other ally with Hive Mind, which they just get. Separatist allies without Hive Mind have 25% offense. Geonosian allies remove 1 turn meter from target enemy whenever they attack on a turn. So they're also going to be removing like 5-6% turn meter every time they hit somebody out of turn. So speed on your secondary engine here, Poggle. Get him with speed. And all right, we're focused on speed, but on these secondaries for Poggle and the Geobrood Alpha, you can see here, defense, potency. I don't know that potency is really what NOOCH wants. It's kind of there just because sometimes you have to put you have to sacrifice the primary stat for the speed. That's what NOOCH has done here. There's no real potency. He can inflict ability block, which is actually, but I take it back. So that ability block is actually very useful, especially when you get into like geo territory battles and you're attacking the the Acklay. You want to ability block those Jedi that are out there. Same thing with Geobrood Alpha. His secondaries, protection, tenacity, health, just those defensive secondaries for these two. And we get to another defensive guy, Sunfac. Just defense, guys. NOOCH has him modded straight for health, defense, health, and health. Just get as much health, and you can get protection on him too. He gives a bunch of extra stuff there. But let's talk about what he does with his basic ability. This is the one you want assisting as much as possible. You want to make sure he's not. You want to make sure he's taking turns and assisting. Every time he does a basic, he dispels all their debuffs. So this is what gets rid of taunts for you. If you're playing against a taunting team, you're pretty much going to get around all those taunts. And recovers 20% of his max health if any buffs are dispelled this way. That's what that health does. You give him as much health as possible. He's recovering 20% of his max health, along with the health you recover from assisting out a turn. Here he taunts for 2 turns and flicks offense down, then remove 40% turn meter from target enemy, which can't be evaded. I don't use that taunt very often. I try to leave the taunt on the brute, and if he goes away, then maybe we'll taunt. But sometimes you might look at it if you want to remove that turn meter. His special, deal physical damage and stagger them. And if you stagger them, he's usually going last on your team or next. Well, not. I'm going to take it back. He's not. So if you stagger them, next person to hit him is going to take away all their turn meters. So he's really removing turn meter with these. If they were already debuffed, add blind and daze for 2 turns, which is nice. And he has 50% counter chance, which is also good because if he counters, everybody's going to counter along with him, right? Are they going to counter along with him? I'm not sure that's how it works. We'll look it up here in a second. In addition, whenever he attacks out of his turn, he has 25% potency. When he taunts, he gains defense up, health up. So you just want as much. NOOCH has him for health and defense. Protection is also a good thing for Sunfac. Just get him modded up as beefy. You want him to be a big, beefy boy. What we're going to look at? We're going to look at this. Have 50% max, add 50. They recover 3% when they use their basic ability. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, they're not going to assist. Hold on. Is that right? whenever another Geo ally uses an ability during his turn. So only during the turn. So yeah, when he counterattacks, they're not going to assist on that. It has to be during his turn. I'm going to come back to Spy. Okay, Geo Soldier. You know, this is one of the first characters that NOOCH had in his arena team back in the very early days of the game. He was a big damage dealer early on. And for a long time, it seemed like it was a useless level up, but now it's definitely worth it. You just want offense on this boy. You just want as much offense as possible. Crit damage set. There's crit chance, health. We'll talk about crit chance here in a second. More crit chance mods over here. NOOCH needs to fix this. I actually, I probably want more crit chance on him, and here's why. You're looking at a mistaken mod set. I should either have him with another crit damage mod or full crit chance, and let's see if we can fix it right now. What have we got available that's out there? We could just do this, we're going to get some crit chance here. That's going to replace that, so we're not going to lose that much crit chance, right? We actually gained a little bit of crit chance. Oh, we did because, yeah, there you go. So we actually gained some crit chance. There you go. There you go. We fixed it right there. Right here, doctoring up the mods, the mod doctor, fixing your mods. On his basic, which, again, these guys are assisting with basics all the time. They're just, every time they assist, they're using a basic. Deals physical damage and inflict tenacity damage, which lets you apply some of those debuffs a little more. On his special, he deals physical damage, calls a random ally. If they're Geos, they deal 25% more damage, so you want to be calling in Spy on that assist. More on that later, because you want to deal as much damage as possible. Yeah, with the hive mind, you get to select to assists if there's no hive mind. Okay, his unique is Geo allies at 15% critical chance. Geo Soldier gains 25% turn meter when he scores a critical hit, so you want him to have as much crit chance as possible. NOOCH has the crit damage on there too, just to provide more damage. And then Geo allies have 35% defense penetration. So each one, you can see all the synergy. This is the most synergistic team in the game. It really is. You can look at Padme too, but these guys don't really work well outside of Geos, although Geobrood Alpha gets used a lot on some teams just to provide a separate tank. But generally speaking, these guys are going to work just with the Geos. And then we come to Spy. If Brood Alpha and Poggle are the engines, and Sunfac is the tank, and Soldier is the offense, Geonosian Spy is the nuke. This guy blows things up, and you want critical damage on this guy. Crit damage set. Offense down here, you just want him offense. Well, that's on me. Always going to be offense. You want him with as much offense and as much crit damage as possible. And we'll show you why in a second. So he's always gaining evasion. He's going to be stealthed for most of the game. This is the ability right here. But let's come back to it in a second. Let's look at this because you're usually going to run this first. Grant everyone potency up and then expose all enemies for 2 turns. Reduce the cooldown of Silent Strike by 1. Actually, you might want to use this first. I've been using the other one first. Might want to use this first so I can reduce the cooldown. That's kind of interesting. His unique, he gains stealth for 3 turns at the start of every encounter and whenever he scores a critical hit. So he's going to be stealth pretty much the entire time. During their turn, whenever a Geo ally inflicts a debuff, he gains 35% turn meter. So this guy's just gaining turn meter. That may bring up an interesting point too. Whenever an enemy is exposed to lose stealth if they had it. You know, since he's gaining that turn meter, it might be wise to replace this with an offense mod. Let's see what we got out there for an offense primary on a triangle. We got 14 speed, 5.88% offense. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch this up. I haven't done this, but with him gaining the turn meter, I feel like this is a better way to do it. And you know, I was saving up some slicing here for a video. Yeah, I'll save it up. I'm going to slice this later. That'll get it to 8% offense. They're 8.5% offense. But I'm saving up for a little content on that, like a mod slicing thing. Okay. Silent Strike. Guys, this is the nuke. This is the nuclear weapon on the team. This is why you want as much crit damage offense on this guy as possible. Deal physical damage. If he's stealthed when it's used, you dispel all status effects on himself, and the target, and deal 40% more damage for each effect dispelled. 40% more damage for each effect. So if he's got all status effects, if Spy's sitting there with 4, let's say 4 extra buffs and debuffs, and whoever he's hitting has 4 extra buffs or debuffs, that's 8 times 40, that's 320% extra damage. This ability right here is why you have seen, there are videos out there of using Geospy to defeat Galactic Legends. It's a little tricky, and you've got to make sure you do it right. But if you get a Galactic Legend and you get just a ton, it's kind of like a Darth Vader thing, except the buffs count as well, and the buffs and debuffs on Spy count as well. If you get enough buffs and debuffs on Spy and on their target, he can just one-shot pretty much anybody in the game. So there you go, guys. That's how you mod your Geos. You can see we got everything here from, we got our 2 engines that require speed. They're both our support guys. We got our tank that wants as much health, mainly health. You stick to health primarily because of this, recovering 20% of his max health if you dispelled any buffs. Then you got your offense. You got your offense here, and you got your nuclear weapon with Sun or Geonosian Spy, and that is how you mod your Geos, guys. And while you're reworking those mods, just like NOOCH did today, always remember, NOOCH too good. Where is the camera? Oh no! The camera isn't working. Oh dear. Lord Vader. What have you done? Hold, please. There's something open that is using the camera. There it is. Wait a minute. Everyone. NOOCH is having technical difficulties. Good Lord. This is probably the best blooper ever. So, NOOCH is actually going to have to shut down OBS, reopen, and come right back. But I've recorded this whole thing for posterity. Hang on.